You too. Good morning, you guys. It is Tuesday, 9 a.m.-ish. I'm Trisha Turner. This is Rise and Thrive, your weekly podcast to bring you energy, to bring you positivity, to bring you ways to improve your life in my four major things, which are faith, family, finances, and fitness. And so every week I get the opportunity to bring you usually one of my friends or somebody that I know, and I think they're just amazing, and I want to share their story. And so with me today is Lacey Lugo. He's a dear friend of mine and was supposed to be on last week, but realized the day of or the night before that she was actually going to be on a plane during this time. Lacey, good morning.
Good morning. Story of my life. Jet setting and not knowing when you're going, where you're going.
Yeah. And so if y'all tuned in last week, you heard me say, and I ended up putting my son on, and you heard me say, well, this is like an impromptu thing because no time to get another guest. But you know what? Everything happens for a reason because we talked about faith, which is also one of the core principles. Today, though, I want to share a little bit of our story. But first, Lacey, for people that don't know you, kind of give a little bit of your backstory, like where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and how long you've been there.
Okay, so a little bit about me. I came from corporate real estate. I actually have a background in multifamily development operations. I've worked for large companies like Greystar, Lennar Multifamily, and then moved over to getting a traditional license roughly around 10 years ago. Started doing that, started in the luxury market, crushed it my first year, which was, a great trendsetter for the 2 crap years behind it. But I sold so much year one that I did very well. And so ended up opening my own brokerage in 2020. Did that, just closed it, I want to say June of this year, officially. But during that transitional time, we actually had moved over and been a team at Keller Williams. And I came over to KW because I have great friends who own several Keller Williams offices and great team leaders that I've connected with through the years. And so it just kind of felt like through that transitional closing phase of owning the brokerage, because it just was not for me. To partner with strong people who were already being very successful in the market. And then, flash forward, here we are.
And where are you today, Lacey?
So right now, currently as it sits, I own a company called the Apartments Concierge. It is a third-party leasing company for the apartment industry. We specialize in Section 8 and conventional leasing. I'd say annually we're doing anywhere between 7,000 to 8,000 leasing leads per year, which is pretty phenomenal for a company that does absolutely no marketing. Our clients are Greystar, RPM, Lynn Living, Huntington Properties. So we have a pretty robust portfolio right now, and I'm very blessed and grateful that I had such amazing women mentors from the multifamily industry that brought me to this place of owning this company. So, and then of course, our most recent transition, which was to Realty of America, which of course I called the first person I knew who knew anything about rev share and building things, which was you, who we had been discussing rev share for years. And I just could never really get my eye around, the EXP model or the real model, not so much like the financial portion of it, but really just the branding and culture is extremely important to me, which is part of the reason why I joined Keller Williams, because the culture, the foundation of that culture is just very grounded. So joined Realty of America with Mark Demas, Trisha Turner, myself, Kim Luagi, Maribel Juarez, just really honestly the dream team. And now I can't announce that one just yet, so I'll wait on that one. But we have other people coming that I can't talk about, which is very stressful because I'm like, is it a secret still? I don't know. So joined Realty of America. We are actually opening the brick and mortar hub for Houston here, which is coincidentally named after the brokerage that I owned called the Collective Group. So a little bit about Collective. It was designed initially to attract and collaborate with other like-minded individuals, which I think the circle always comes full circle, right? That's what we're doing now. We're really collaborating with like-minded individuals. And now, as of yesterday, we are green lighted that TAC, Apartments Concierge, will be side by side with Realty of America, which I think makes it even more of a powerhouse. And you're part of that journey too.
Yes. Yeah. And it's super cool. So you guys, just to give y'all some backstory, Lacey and I met like in a business meeting. We had dinner and drinks years ago. And when we met, I was at EXP, and her and I became instant friends, of course, because like attracts like. We're both like drivers. We're like driven, very energetic, type A's all the way. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we should be building something together, right? So I was at EXP. She didn't want anything to do with that. Like, she's like, I'm not ever going to EXP. Like, we're just going to hang out. Stop talking to me about that. So I'm like, very cool. Respect. Right. We switched over to Real again, had this conversation with her. She's like, I'm not doing it. Like, I'm not doing it. This is what I'm doing. And she like launched her whole thing. You know, she was at KW. She had her own brokerage and at KW actually. And this is what her plan was. And so she lines out her whole plan. I get it, right? I get all of it. I understand all, but I'm like, Lacey, like you've got to see this opportunity. Like, this is the way of the future. This is where real estate is going. Cloud-based brokerages. This is the model. This is the franchise model is done. The old independent brokerages are done. Like, that's old school. You got to get into where we are now. Huge opportunity. Didn't see it, but you know, God's timing is his timing. It's not ours. And so sometimes you just got to wait for his timing. Lacey calls me a couple of months ago and she's like, oh my gosh, I heard of this new brokerage that's opening. It's a cloud-based brokerage. And she starts talking to me about RevShare and cloud-based brokerage. I'm like, Lacey, that's what I've been trying to tell you for 6 years. And I've been in that world for 6 years. And she's like, you got to come eat dinner. We got to go have dinner. I've got to tell you all about this. And she's all excited. And I'm like, okay, definitely.
Also wasn't allowed to talk about anything, like, especially in writing. I was like, okay, no, sorry, we have to meet in person.
Yeah. And in my mind, I'm thinking, now she finally sees it, right? I'm going to go eat dinner with her and she's going to finally come and join us and work at Real and help us grow everything we're doing in Houston. Instead, I go and meet her for dinner and she enlightens me with all that she's learned. And I'm like, what is this Realty of America? And it's Mark Demuth, who we know like for years. He's right here in our backyard. Oh, now hold on a second. Now we have to, this is a whole different conversation.
And I don't think you anticipated, like, I was like, listen, like, I think I finally get it. Like, but wait, this is better. Like,
yes.
And I love
didn't anticipate
brand package. You know, our brand package is what, you know, honestly, when I met Mark, he's very charismatic. Whenever anyone meets Mark, he's a very charismatic, you know, he's known as the Zillow guy, the billion-dollar producer here in the Houston market. He's got that approachable personality, I think, which is very similar to all of us, which is why our businesses have been so successful. Yeah. And so when I met him, I was like, okay, yeah, like all right, well, let me think about it. And then I ended up actually, like she said, God's timing, reasons, you know, everything comes full circle when it's supposed to. I ended up actually going on a work trip to Mexico with my team because we sell real estate there. And so I ended up going, and I honestly, I was like really reluctant to go on this trip because I've been like a bajillion times and I had so much going on and I was like, I can't cancel on the girls. I've got to go. So, you know, last night on the trip, we were there for 4 days. We're pulling out of a parking lot. It's pouring down rain. I'm still on the fence about Row. I'm like, do I make this move? Like, I really got it good at KW and I've got great partnerships and friends there. Like, do I do this? But something just told me, like, you know, don't, because I make quick decisions. You know me. I'm like, oh, yeah. No, that's not for me. Like, or okay, maybe, you know. But with this, I was pulling out of the parking lot. It was pouring down rain. We're in Tulum, which is like one of the most magical places if no one's ever been. One car in the parking lot and the license plate said Roa. And I really wish I would have snapped a picture when this happened, but yes. I was sitting there and I'm in the car with 3 of my team members who actually came to Roa with me from KW. And I'm just like sitting there and I'm like, okay, well, if that's not God telling me that this is what I need to do, then I don't know. He can't send you more of a sign, you know?
No. So, isn't that crazy?
I know, it was crazy. And so I'm telling Norma as we're pulling out of the parking lot, I was like, did you see that? That license plate just said Rose. She's like, no, I didn't see it. She's like, did you get a picture? I'm like, I didn't. I almost told him to take a loop back around, but I didn't want to inconvenience anyone.
You should have. You so
Yeah,
should have.
but legit sends you signs when you need to see them. So, and
And
then
you
I
know,
called you.
yes, which is crazy. And I like, we had just been at Real for a year. So like we had no plans of doing anything different except for building that. But I'm a freaking builder and a visionary. And I'm like, well, hold on a second, because I was with EXP for 5 years. We've been with Real for a year. I believe in the cloud-based model if it's initiated by successful people and it's launched and people know what they're doing. And when you look at Mark Demas and you look at his background, and you look at Eddie Garcia, who's the founder, who we didn't know, but then after researching and meeting him and hearing his story, you're like, holy crap, like he built Realty of Chicago and it's massively successful. Now you put these two together and they're hand selecting other leaders to help build the foundation of his company. How can you lose?
Yeah, you can't.
You
There's
can't.
no way.
What
And
was one of the things that made you finally be like, you know what? I see it and I'm believing it and I'm going to do it?
I think it was probably a combination of, because when I met with you, I was still not even fully transitioned over. I was already like pitching you something that I hadn't even done yet.
Yes.
I was like, listen, we're going to do this at like the same time. Like it's going to happen. I didn't know how this was going to happen, but I knew at some point in the almost 6 years that we've known each other that something was going to happen. And actually, a funny story, we met through a realtor who worked at my brokerage. She actually introduced me to Trisha. That's how we met. I'd always heard about you because I knew you were like, in your side of the neck of the woods over there, you are like leading the pack over there. And so I was like, man, that Trisha Turner person looks kind of cool. And when I met you, and I was like, oh, wow. And our stories are so similar. Like both moms of three, had very like, what would we call it?
Troubled past.
Trying times in our lives that we've had to overcome and rough divorces and all those things. So I think we can relate and our collaboration now is going to be so much stronger because our skill sets are so relatable and our life experiences are so relatable.
Yes.
And I would say that's pretty much a common denominator for a lot of the women that are in our groups. They're all strong women who've persevered through, personal and professional problems, or I wouldn't even say problems, I would say difficulties or, it's kind of like high jumping or pole vaulting, like obstacles to overcome, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I can appreciate a strong woman really trying, and this is definitely not like, total woman power, although it is. I do appreciate strong men, people like Eddie and Mark as well, and what they've been able to achieve in such a short span of time. I mean, look at us now. We're a national brokerage. We launched in Texas, a month ago?
Yeah.
We're already at I think it's like over 150 agents on the MLS, more in the pipeline, quite a few LOIs in the pipeline as well, with agents coming from brick and mortar brokerages. And I would like to mention that if you are an agent and you are considering making a change going into the 2025 new year, this is a great time to do it. We are obviously a newer brokerage with very strong, like-minded leaders coming from different brick and mortar or rev share brokerages and that see the vision of what we're building. And it's a great time because you can get all of the benefits of being, that 85-15 split, $14,000 cloud-based with the tech stack. We're going to go public, like all of that's happening. But you can also get the brick and mortar aspect by partnering with our collaboration, especially here in Houston, and as we expand across the country. So you're really getting the best of both worlds without spending and paying your broker, hundreds of thousands of dollars because you're a top producer in the area. You don't have to do that anymore. Yeah. So I think it's a great time. And the brand. I mean, Trisha, I don't think you've touched on the branding, but we have the most beautiful brand package. Everything is uniform. There's no differentiating between, you go to some brokerages that allow teams to hang different names and stuff, but the signage is just kind of like all over the place. And you think it's like 7 brokerages at once, but we're pretty uniformed and it's a beautiful, attractive blue. I like to say it's like very regal. It's regal.
It is. Yeah.
Which are colors that you've had too through the years. It's very similar to the Trisha Turner colors as well. Yeah.
It is. And you know what's crazy? I am on calls like every single day with people. And I talked to a broker friend of mine last night. And this is a real live like example. And he said, "Hey, can I merge a call with one of my top producing agents?" And I was like, "Yeah, does she know anything about this call we're about to have?" And he's like, "Not much." And I said, "All right." So he puts her on the phone. Long story short, she's like, "What is it?" And he comes from an independent. He's had his own independent brokerage for years. And she likes that, of course. And she says, "What is the difference? Why should I leave where I am?" Like, this is her talking, to go join you guys where there's an 85-15 split and a 14,000 cap. And I said, "Well, number one, that model that you're in, this independent brokerage model where the brokers are just charging a flat fee and it's a transaction fee, is an old model that's, number one, not profitable. And those brokers are not going to be able to stay in business. And you will look and see in the next 2 to 5 years, the independent brokerage model, most of them will be gone. These old franchise models will be gone as well. So what we're offering you," I said, "if you want to sell homes when you're 70 and 80 years old, that's fine. However, by moving with us, we're going to teach you how to build wealth so that you don't have to do that unless you want to. You're going to learn how to create wealth with a revenue share program. You're going to learn how to create wealth building stock. You're going to learn how to sell a crap ton of homes because we're going to train you to be a top producer. You're not getting any of that at this discount brokerage that you're at, where you're paying a flat fee if you sell a home." And she was like, "Okay, I'm in."
Yeah.
Super simple.
I mean, the model sells itself, I believe. I actually was joking with a TL from KW, and I was telling her, I said, listen, flat fee and brick and mortar, like thing of the past. What I call it, old, pale, and stale.
Yeah,
It's
for
old,
sure.
pale, and stale. It's not profitable anymore. You know, the overhead is through the roof. You know, and now they're tacking on top of that additional transactional fees on top of which are already agreed to team split is, or you know, individual cap might be if you're at a capping brokerage. I personally, when I owned my boutique, we did a wonderful amount. We would do between 80 to 100 million. And luxury. And I will tell you, I had some prima donna agents and I loved it. And if you want that vibe, right? And that vibe is wonderful too. But it is possible to be with a, you know, rev share brokerage or a capping brokerage and sell multi-million dollar homes. You don't have to give 40% of your paycheck away anymore. That's not,
No.
you don't have to do it. But also what I would mention is that I was in my brokerage, and the reason touching back on what you just said to that agent, why would I leave this brokerage, you know, that's an independent brokerage to come over to a rev shares model? Okay, well, I was compliance, I was recruiting, I was production, I was, you know, office operations, I was everything. I was a one-stop shop, and it was just me.
Yep.
And it was very taxing on me. And it's funny because I saw this reel the other day that one of my other partners sent me, and she said, it was a very famous Instagram influencer. And it's like, don't ever try to compete with someone who has a team, because you will not win. You will lose every time. And I have the most phenomenal team right now. I have you, I have Mark, I have Kim, I have Maribel, I have got all of these other people joining our movement, because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
And with that, like even just yesterday, we had a meeting here, remember, at the house. It was our Q1 meeting, but really we ended up planning out all the Qs.
Yes.
So
Planning
I was
session.
sitting there and I was like, wow, this is so nice. Like everyone is like on it. And we've already got like 6 different events planned out, and your whole event coming next month. Plus,
Yes.
we were throwing in some like impromptu things that we think could just build additional rapport in the market. And I was just sitting there and I was like, wow, this is nice. Okay. Well,
Yes.
I guess this is the future. And even us talking about rotating in the office to be available for agents, because as we're talking about growing your business, one thing Trisha's not mentioning is that we're finding ways to jointly collaborate all of our business flow. As I mentioned, Apartments Concierge gets a ridiculous amounts of leads. Trisha Turner Group gets a ridiculous amount of leads. And we have other ways that we're going to source into this collaboration lead volume for newer agents or agents who are just kind of like struggling and really not quite sure what they're going to do for this year if their business is struggling. And a lot of really cool AI influenced ideas, CRM ideas, and the marketing too as well, because we kind of just have all of that. So I was really taken back that we were able to build what we have right now, which is such an amazing resource, I think, for pre-existing production agents and newer agents who are
Oh
entering
yeah.
because that was something I remember when I first got my license. It was kind of like, okay, well, I went and joined this brokerage and like, no one even told me how to set up my Supra. Like I didn't know how to get HAR. And it's funny because the joke is Kim and I met 12 years ago. She's actually the one that was at the same brokerage with me that told me how to get my HAR and my Supra box because I had $1 million client to show as my first client. And I was like, well, how do you get into the houses? So she told me that and I was like, okay. And then, here we are 12 years later, we're all joining forces. So
Isn't it crazy?
it is. And she ran a huge team at EXP.
Yep.
And so like, I never thought that was going to go away for her. I thought that was going to be her forever game. And
Yes.
so, I had actually approached her about helping me with Apartments Concierge. And then, through multiple introductions, that's how we've all kind of like, it's like Captain Planet, our powers combine.
Which is super cool because when you bring people together, especially when they have different strengths, it's like that is such a rare find. And you can actually sit there and say, there's no one that has what we have, and there's no one that can offer what we can offer, which is cool as crap.
Yeah.
It's funny that when you look at it's not funny, but the last, especially 12 to 18 months in our industry has been brutal for a lot of people. And like this broker that I was on a call with last night, I've been talking to him for years, and he was at EXP with us, and then he left. He went back independent, and then he was going to come to Real. And we've just been playing phone tag. And then after you and I met, I texted him. I was like, hold on, don't switch over yet because I may be doing something different. He was laughing about this last night. And he goes, this is hilarious how this has just really come about. He said, I'll tell you what he's learned in the last 12 to 18 months. This model his model, the independent model, right now, 50 to 70% of all active licensees have not sold one single home in 2024. So as a broker owner of an independent where you're living on transaction fees and maybe a split or two, you're struggling financially big time right now. And he said last night, I'm sick of being on the road to nowhere and on the scarcity avenue. He said, I'm done with this. I want to go into the new year with a new mentality and new hope and growing bigger and stronger together. And I was like, that's super cool that you say that because I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of people in that same boat.
Yeah. I mean, you're essentially treading water until you drown.
You are.
I mean, I experienced it, and it is a very stressful thing when you go from having, several very phenomenal years. I mean, I did about 15 million on my own.
Right.
And I did commercial, and I just had a commercial deal bust this month. It was supposed to close on the 20th. And I was like, man, that was a big deal. And it just busted. Sure. And of course, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? Maybe that's just the universe telling me that going into 2025, like it'll be better. Right. And that was actually my last deal that I had contracted prior to switching over to ROA. So I was like, okay, well, that's the universe telling me like, wash my hands with that.
Be done.
But I will say the future of real estate is built off collaboration and not competition. And for people like myself and you and the other partners that we have within this group, I would say that all of us have, we've been in production. We've done the onesie twosies, the 20, 30 houses at the time. And I would just say that I'm at a place now where I want to help other agents grow their business while also having them help me grow my business. And while we're working together, it really is the quid pro quo, right? But like in a positive manner, right? You do this and I can do this and we can do this together.
Yeah.
And I do believe that that's where the strongest allies are formed is in situations like this. And so I don't even think I haven't had a chance because we've been so busy, but I got like a sneak peek of last week's show because I was on a plane. And have you talked about the rev share model at all from ROA? Because we
probably did in Chad's episode, but not much.
Yeah. So I would say if you were to compare apples to oranges and you look at the reels and the EXPs and the LPTs, our model is built to be much more profitable for the agents. So you're building equity, but you're also getting your rev share as well. Yep. And so when you look at the rev share model, I think we're paying like on our first line, roughly around 25%. And it's an infinite rev share model. And if you just go peek at the other models, I'm not even going to list it, like just go peek at the other models. Ours starts at 25% on line one and it runs infinitely down. It doesn't stop at level 5 or level 7. And so, if you really want to grab more information to hear about what we have to offer as a company, I would say, Trisha, you should probably put the information in for them to reach out. And if they have
For sure.
questions, we can help them with that. But
Yeah.
it really is a much more profitable model and it really is built for longevity. And so, we're trying to create the wheel, and it's, we don't want to have to try to fix it later on. So,
No, and I told this lady last night, I was like, honestly, Eddie's vision, the founder, is to build the best real estate company in America. And when you embrace that, like I'm down because that is something that I've wanted to be a part of forever. I think Keller Williams is amazing. And I think the culture that they build is amazing. But at the same time, I also think it's not. I think it's at the end of the day, their core is just about numbers. They just want to get as many agents in there paying their monthly dues as they can. And these poor agents don't have a chance of ever being successful in real estate. And they train them through a cheerleader program. And it's the same thing. They're all trained the same way. And no one really goes on listing appointments with them. No one shows them how to actually be in business and build a business. And, that's fine if that's what you want. But for us, especially the struggles that we've been through, like we've been through dark times, we've been through going broke, we've been through not being able to pay our bills.
yeah.
And no one ever showed me how to get out there and actually build a business and be in it. So I'm very passionate about it because like I train our agents to get in any listing situation they can. And I'll go with people because I don't want anybody to lose, not on my watch. And it's one of my weaknesses to a fault, but it's because of all the trauma that I've been through. And I think when you get that many people together that are passionate about really building something beautiful, I think God's hand of favor is just on us. And this is just the beginning of what we're going to build.
Well, and it's intention too, the intentions of what we're trying to bring to additional people in our circle, right?
Yeah.
Even outside of our circle, because I mean, some of my best friends are with KW, and some of my best friends are with boutique brokerages, and even with Compass as well. And I'm just like, hey, like I get that works for your business model right now, but when you're ready to make a transition, let me know because come over here. So
yes.
I would
And
say,
when you look at like the other models, Lacey, I mean, when you study like Coldwell Banker and Remax and people are like, well, I'm getting a killer deal now. I'm only at 95.5. And I'm like, okay, great. Because all they're teaching you to do is nothing. Like you are on your own. It's a one-man operation. And I don't know how long you think that's going to last, but it's not. Like, unless your goal is to be out of business or doing something different in a couple of years, if you haven't paid attention to our industry, nothing has been normal since COVID. We are on a rapid warp speed to change every single month with AI, with buyer agent commissions shrinking, with everything. And now we've got right now record low sales in 2024. We're seeing some of the lowest numbers of transactions since 1993, which is insane. Like I wasn't practicing real estate then, but holy crap, when you look at the numbers, think about that. Like from 1993, it's 2024. If the amount of transactions that we're doing this year is the same as 1993, even though our population has increased dramatically, what does that tell you? That tells you real estate agents, a lot of them are struggling, and a lot of them are either going to leave the business or they're going to continue to struggle. That's why we're out there and we're like, look, if you want to be in business, we are here for you and we will train you, but we don't want a bunch of people that aren't willing to do the work.
Well, and saying not do the work, I've had tons of agents through the years, and you cannot teach hunger. You cannot teach someone. We have a survival in us.
Yep.
Obviously, being single moms too, I think is a huge derivative of that as well. But I have to provide. Yep. I have to do it. And so what I've built truly organically from ground up, and I bootstrapped TAC 100% on my own.
I know.
And that was that. When I look at that now, I'm like, how did I build this business out of $25,000? I don't know how I did it. And even then I was like scraping pennies because I was closing a brokerage and I was trying to open this whole new business while also trying to rebuild a team and produce while being at KW. And it was happening. And slowly, it's like now we're getting our direct deposits and our wires and stuff. And I'm seeing like, 8,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 coming in at a time. And I'm like, how do we do this? And then it's so funny because Norma will sit there. She's like, well, you did it. And we have a huge Section 8 component, which, for a lot of realtors who don't know how to do Section 8, the great part about TAC now being a collaborative of Row is that I can teach you how to do Section 8. I will teach you how to leverage Apartments Concierge to get Section 8 listings, which is guaranteed rent for landlords. And if you guys don't know about that, if you're not privy to other lucrative ways to sell real estate or becoming a subject matter specialist in different markets, like, you should be working with people who are much smarter than you. I don't want to be surrounded by people who are not smarter than me.
No.
I say that with all the love and respect in the world. I want to be surrounded by people who are doing 10 times better than me, so I can say, what are they doing that I should be doing?
Yep.
And again, it's teaching that hunger. I can't tell you how many realtors. I mean, we have 250,000 licensees in Texas, 50,000 which are in Houston, roughly.
Yeah.
There's no way 50,000 of you are working. It doesn't, the numbers don't justify.
No.
I would say even the ones that we do see, a lot of them try to specialize in leasing, and that's their forte, and that's cool. And then you have the other ones that just want to do, I have an agent, she only wants to do wholesaling. She does not want to do any real estate stuff.
Yeah.
No contractual work whatsoever.
Oh yeah.
And so I'm looking at the amount of agents that are actually working, and then the ones that I've given leads to that say they want to work, and then they don't. And then they're like, well, I don't understand why I'm not making any money. I need to go get a job now. Well, why weren't you doing your job?
Yep.
If you were actually doing your job and working every day like a full-time agent, it's very hard to be successful in this business if you're not putting 100% of your time, energy, and effort into it.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that's hard to say, especially for people who need money to pay rent and mortgages. And I get that. But until you put both of your feet in the water, you're not going to be able to swim. It's just not going to happen.
It's kind of this old concept, like in the real estate world, so many people want to get into it because they think it's easy, but it's like, it's not, number one, easy at all. It's a very hard industry, and you have to be self-disciplined. Just like Lacey said, if you're not going to do what it takes to be successful, like if you have a normal 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 job, and you show up at your job, and if your job is to answer the phones, but you sit there and the phone rings all day long and you do nothing, you're going to get fired. You're going to make $0 and be fired. Real estate's the same way. If you show up at your office or your desk or whatever is your workspace and you do nothing, you also will be super unsuccessful. You should fire yourself. And I think so many people make it look glamorous and easy. And then the ones like us that are actually out there working our faces off, we're not talking about it because we're so busy just building. But the fact of the matter is, it is a hard industry. But when you put people together, like what we've created, it's a formula for success. And there's agents that, I don't care if you're brand new, seasoned, broker, whatever. If you come and you're part of what we're building and what we've built, you will be successful. Because where I come in, I'm going to teach you how to do listings, and I'm going to go on listing appointments with you, and I'm going to show you how to run numbers, and you're never going to not know what to say to a seller. Lacey is the freaking Section 8 and apartment queen. She knows everything about it, and she has built this beast of a business that if you aren't having any real estate traditional transactions right now, perhaps you can get involved in apartment leasing, and you don't have to do it full time. You can do it to help supplement your income, but you've got to be trained, number one, and you have to show up and do the work. No one has what Lacey has. What she has built is absolutely beautiful. And here's something I want you to know, Lacey. I just listened to a report this morning, and I was like, oh my gosh, timing of all things. I'm about to talk to you. As of right now, December 2024, in Houston, Texas, 50% of the population are renters. 50%. What does that tell you? Tells you that you're on to something.
Oh, my screen glitched when you said that. I heard 52 and then it went black and I was like, no. Okay, so
did you hear what I said?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so as of today, the report that I listened to this morning, in Houston, Texas, 50% of the population are renters.
Yeah. So for those of you who didn't know, and I grew up in the leasing industry, I actually started leasing apartments when I was 18. And
so
I know, it's so funny. We found that out after the fact. I was like, no way. But yeah, I started leasing apartments when I was 18. I worked for a company called Landmark. I actually bartended, and I worked the graveyard shift. So I would work all night, and then I would go to work like 2 hours later Because again, I was a single mom. And
Yeah.
so, and I would do this, like, I would only do the bartending mostly on the weekends. So by like the time I got to Monday, it was rough, and I always had such a great support system. My dad's always been so helpful. And my oldest daughter, she's going to turn 18 in April. So I'm like, how does this even,
Crazy.
so I just aged myself. So now you guys know, how long I've been doing this. And so started leasing apartments. And, it was my first, well, not really my first office job, because I worked in accounting in high school. And so, which that's another story. Anyway, started doing leasing, and I fell in love with the full, again, this was, 2007. So it was a different time. Like, a prospect walked in off the street, you sat them down, you got to know who they were, you knew their first, last name, you had a physical guest card you were filling out. That we didn't do things on the computer like that. That was like at the end of the day. And so, I really fell in love with the leasing component of it, and then the tour aspect of it. And I think that's really what kind of intrigued me with real estate. I was like, okay, well, it's kind of like the same thing, only, the paycheck's supposed to be bigger, right?
Yeah.
And so it just evolved. And then I started getting promoted, and I got into managerial, and then I got into doing like takeovers, and I really got to learn every different aspect of the business. So I always laugh when people are like, well, I'm leasing apartments and I want to get into real estate. I'm like, but you should work your way up, because there's so many other aspects of the business that once you learn those things, it really does. I will tell you, working for Greystar built a huge foundation on who I am as a person, from the training that they offered. They're one of the largest management companies in the country.
Oh, yeah.
And so I all of the women that I worked for were very successful, empowering, and complimentary women. I mean, and I will say, it didn't come without a few of them mothering me. I mean, I had a regional or two, I got a couple hand slaps on the way, but she's like, hey, I'm just going to talk to you like you're one of my daughters. Like, don't do this again. And I will say that those chances, and I do the same thing with my team now. When they mess up, I'm like, hey, you probably could have gone about it this way.
Yeah.
And I never thought the roles would be reversed, and this would be me, giving that constructive criticism. But I will say that component built me as a person. It built me in this industry, and it made me successful enough to know how to build apartments concierge, to know what worked and what didn't work in the apartment industry, and then also leveraging AI. But because I had transitioned from leasing into managerial, I learned all the accounting aspects of it. That brought me to another very special position with takeovers. And because of that, I was able to learn a skill set that built the foundation of Lacey Lugo, that was able to build apartments concierge. And without that, TAC would have never happened, because I see on site what doesn't work for these properties. And I see, what certain companies, not naming their names because they're my clients, do and don't do that work and don't work for their business. And it's funny, because now I don't even prospect for business anymore. I mean, it's been 6 months. I told the team I was not going to prospect for any business. We signed 30 more buildings, and I'm getting more and more calls. I mean, I've gotten 5 emails in the last 4 days from different regionals asking us to come and help them because they're struggling with leasing numbers. And you know why? Trisha brought up a very good point. You're not answering that phone. Fire yourself. You don't want it bad enough.
No.
And for me, every time I saw that leasing check come in and I was getting on site, a $12,000 additional commission check on top of my monthly pay, when I would get that check, I was making 6 figures, as a leasing consultant. And that is a very unheard of thing to do. Worked with some of the best people in the business, former, I would say, mentor and boss of mine. She's the senior vice president and partner for one of the largest commercial real estate firms here in Houston. And her director of operations, good friend of mine, 15 years. She worked with me at Greystar and several other companies. So same with relationships like with you, those things always come full circle. So and these are the connections you have access to through ROA now. And so I think it's a phenomenal thing that we're building such a great collaborative space. Mm-hmm. And I think it's a great opportunity for a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
I think as we move into like 2025, like none of us know what the future holds. Ever since COVID, we've been trying to predict what interest rates are going to do. What I know is like, I'm done trying to predict that stuff. Mm-hmm. We're going to deal with the here and now. Rates today are like 6.2. Great. Could they be 7.2 tomorrow? Yep. Could they be 8 in 30 days? Yep. Could they be 5 in 30 days? Yep. We have no freaking idea. What we need to focus on is what people can afford today. And I think there's so many people that are in this uncertainty space in homeownership and leasing, renting. What do I do? Real estate agents are so confused. They don't know where to go. And there's shiny objects coming at them from all over the place. It's like, you've really got to get attached to something. You've really got to get a strong foundation and build from that. And you've got to put your ego out of the way, because there are so many people out there that are not doing well, but their ego is in the way and they think they can do it by themselves. And it's like, when are you going to like pack that away, put it in a suitcase, put it away? That was then. Like, this is now. The real estate industry has evolved. And if you think that you're better alone, you're not. And over time, not only are you going to burn yourself out, but you're going to become financially depleted, because our industry is just evolving so fast right now.
And I would also mention too, because, touching on all of this and also the collaboration of what we offer, I have multiple resources that I just need agents to leverage them. Like not just the lead flow. I'm talking marketing, because as a new realtor, you go out and you're like, I don't have money for marketing.
Yep.
I can't afford to do that. I mean, we've got it all. We have it all ready to go. And for people who are working with us, we want to share that. Like, I've got a drive full of tons of marketing videos on the apartment side. And, what's great is our relationships on the apartment side leverage for us to get paid faster. I don't have a huge running delinquency balance on my books. Do I have invoices that need to get paid? Absolutely. But I will tell you that a majority of my clients, I had a client call me the other day. I was in Vegas when I was missing last week's call. And he called me and he's like, hey, are we getting your bills paid? Like, I said, absolutely. Actually, you're paying my bills on time, direct deposit. Thank you so much. If you get more properties, let me know. Like, we'd be happy to fill that for you. Been one of the most phenomenal clients I've worked with. And, when you're looking at agents putting out $10 to $20 to $30,000 in invoices per month per agent, that's huge. That's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
You're saying 50% of people in Houston are renting. I'm not shocked by that, especially the way that the interest rates are right now. People are still a little bit leery. I purchased my home at a 6.5 last year. I refied it for a 5.5. And even then I was still like, well, it's not the 3.2 that I had, which, by the way, Trisha helped me sell. We did a transaction 3 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah.
In Fulshire, which is her neck of the woods. And I called her. I was like, Trisha, help me sell this. Just give me a cash offer. I don't want to deal with this. And she did. She pulled it through, and she pulled it through quick. And that was actually, you held that deal together too for me.
Yes. Yes. Because the market was shifting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Went under contract at the perfect time, and then almost, but did close right on time.
Yes. You know what I think is crazy now that and you guys, like, again, Lacey is new to this model. If you can't
the rev share,
the rev share model, like, because she's come from her own independent brokerage and then the franchise models, of course. Mm-hmm. Now you're excited about this. You're getting it, aren't you? Yeah.
Well, I mean, we've got a lot of people coming on board. We've got a lot of people coming on board. I have a team, a 30-person team in Dallas coming. You're talking to a ton of people, and they're just, I mean, again, the model sells itself. I think the leadership is phenomenal. I think just the energy is big for me.
Yeah.
I want to be surrounded by people that make me feel good. And I do feel like at ROA, it's like my family. Yeah. Like we've built like a great little family that's only going to grow, right? Because as we meet more phenomenal people, that family is just going to grow, and I think it's going to triple. And I'm excited to see what happens with that. And, I'll be in Chicago this week. You'll be in Chicago.
Yes, we will.
We're going to the company Christmas party, which apparently is at like 1,000 RSVPs. That's crazy. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, and get to be at the corporate office and just kind of enjoy the company of our extended family that's not here in Houston. And so I'm excited for everything that's coming.
Lacey, what can people look forward to if they contact you for 2025? How can you help them?
Oh, wow. Okay. So put me on the spot, Trisha.
I did.
I would say for 2025, I am looking to expand Apartments Concierge substantially with the help of people like Trisha Turner and her people, which she is very organized like me, which I love it. It's like very yin yang. And so I'm looking to expand to Dallas, Austin, and San Antonio, which we already have properties in those areas. I'm really looking to expand the Section 8 market in Dallas. And then as we expand with ROA nationally, I'm looking to expand into different states. And so I'm looking for leaders that can come in, help with expansion, help with growth, help, as we have a very high expectation on closing ratios, to hunt and perform. So I think those are the items that I'm looking for into 2025.
I love that. I want to clarify something, you guys, because we've talked about Section 8, and I think there's a misnomer. A lot of people think, oh, Section 8, she's just dealing with, crappy properties. Talk a little bit about that if you could, Lacey.
Yeah. So on the Section 8 side, just so you guys know, it is a really long wait list for people to qualify for Section 8. It's anywhere between 5 to 7 year wait list. Historically, Section 8 has had that stigma of only D-class properties, where you're like, okay, well, does it have a roof? Is the wall leaking? That is not the type of clientele base that we're dealing with. We basically play an intermediary between the property owner, which might be a Class A, Tier A, multifamily owner, developer, property management company, and the voucher holder themselves. And we actually file the paperwork on behalf of the property manager and the voucher holder with the local housing authority. We have very strong relationships with the local housing authorities. And so we've become a martyr in this industry of being the only company in the nation that processes Section 8 voucher placement. So we're the only housing choice voucher placement company in the country. And so it's a personal dream of mine to expand this nationally and offer these resources to individuals that might not have had it, because you go to Section 8, you might get approved for the voucher. They give you the voucher from the local housing authority. And then there's really just not a lot of resources on how to use it. And I don't know if you knew this, Trisha, but you only have 120 days to use your voucher from the time that you receive it from the local housing authority. And if you don't use it, you lose it. And
Wow.
that whole process starts all over again, because it's very difficult to get an extension from housing. So I'd like to kind of mention that. So if you're a realtor trying to do Section 8 for a client, do not do them a disservice of not understanding what you're doing when you're representing them, because they have a very limited amount of time to be placed. You can bring them to a company like mine that does this. This is what we specialize in. We will pay you a referral fee just for bringing the client over. And we have different payment structures on single family residential and apartments, because obviously the pay structure is different, right?
Yeah.
So I would say don't do your client a disservice. Yield that fiduciary capacity that you have with that client and bring them to someone who's an expert in it. And maybe, just maybe, if it's something that you're really interested in, you can come over and you can work with us. I will tell you, the one thing we have over any independent broker or realtor is we have the ability to file the paperwork on the behalf of large corporations. And I'm talking like the Greystars, the RPMs, the large companies. We file that paperwork for them. So if you were to walk in off the street as an independent agent, say, I have a client that has Section 8, it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to work through those channels. I'm dealing with, the senior vice presidents and the regionals and the people who sign off on the paperwork. It's very difficult to try to get that moved along in a timely manner. And so we typically have our RFTAs ready, and we can adjust those based off of what the voucher size is and what's needed to help the client quickly. So our placements can take place in anywhere between 24 to 48 hours of getting all of the paperwork into housing. And I think our shortest turnaround time with housing has been about 11 business days, which is unheard of. Because the paperwork's done correctly, it's getting pushed through correctly. Like we know exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
So it's not getting kicked back. And essentially that's helping the landlord, because now they're not having this huge vacancy loss, and it's helping the client because now they're not waiting, 90 days to get pushed through the inspection to get moved in. So there's a lot of nuances to it, and you really need to know what you're doing before you bite off that cookie.
I bet. I think what's super cool, as we come up to our session ending time, one thing I want y'all to know that she just said over and over was making sure that everything's done correctly and making sure that the needs are met. Like, if you didn't hear the care there, and compassion, that's super cool because that's a rarity, especially when, like people dealing with Section 8, they think that's like the lowest of the lows, and it's not. A lot of times these are just people that need help. They may be in a situation. And for Lacey to be in there, like in the trenches, making sure these people are taken care of and they're not in downtime and they don't lose their ability to actually get into a home, I think is super awesome. And I love that you have that. I think it's something that everyone should recognize.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, Trisha, because she did touch on that. A lot of our people are people that have come from battered homes,
Yep.
Women who've been abused, women who have children, homeless people who've gone to a shelter and asked for help. There's a lot of care and consideration, and we treat them exactly the same way that we would treat a regular conventional lead, because that's what it is. It's a lead to us, and it's someone that needs to get they need just a little bit more love and care. That's it.
They need help. So you guys, the moral of the story is 2024 is almost over. Hallelujah. Because 2025 is going to be amazing. We have a big event coming up too on January 23rd because it's time to thrive in 25. So you're going to see the graphics for that launch this week, and we'll launch an Eventbrite where you can get tickets. It's going to be a free event to help you learn how to grow your mind and grow your business, whether it's real estate, lending, or whatever. Just come and be part of it. We're going to have a whole panel of people that are like killing it in the industry. And if you want more information about what we're doing, or Realty of America, or just getting more info from Lacey about leasing, Section 8, anything like that, Lacey, how can they find you?
So it's super simple. We have a website, obviously. It's just www.theapartmentsconcierge.com. If you are a Section 8 client, you can just click the vouchers tab and implement your information there. It actually goes straight to the office. We have a full team that will do your intake. Same for conventional leasing. You can also do the same there. If you want to submit referrals or you're a landlord looking for information, we also have options for you on that website as well. But if you want to reach out to me directly, I have no problem giving you my personal cell phone. So that number is 832-535-9489. And also you can reach me at Lacey, LACIE.lugo, LUGO at realtyofamerica.com.
Love it. You guys, we are coming into the holiday time of the year, but that doesn't mean you got to stop working. But do everything you can with compassion and passion, and be genuine and sincere and be your authentic self. And let's get into 25 like amazing. And make sure and tune in every week to our podcast on 9 a.m.-ish Central Time to Rise and Thrive. You guys have an awesome day. Thank you, Lacey.
Thank you, Trisha, for having me.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.